Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, we can see you.
All right. Thank you so much. Taylor, are we good to go?
We're good to go.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for availing yourself to this wonderful series. My name is Milton Malama, and I'll be your moderator for this session. I currently work as a community outreach and interventions consultant for the Backfit project, which falls under the advisories pillar of the EDI initiative at CIMMYT Zambia. We are all thrilled to have participants dialing in from all over the world. And before we begin, let me go over a few housekeeping rules or items. Firstly, this session is being recorded. And then secondly, please keep your microphones muted during the presentations. And if you have any questions for our speakers, kindly use the Q&A or chat functions. But we encourage everyone to engage actively in this chat. So just to give a brief background, a brief overview, the Southern African Accelerated Innovation Delivery Initiative, Rapid Delivery Hub, is an effort to combat the challenges of food insecurity in Southern Africa. Through EDI, we provide critical support to smallholder farmers in the DRC, Malawi, Tanzania, and Zambia by improving access to agriculture innovations and information. The initiative has invested in improving several key areas, including soil health, local seed system, financial access, and advisory services. As part of its effort, EDI is hosting a series of webinars that highlight partner contributions and share insights on the initiative's implementation and how EDI is working to actually scale innovations. Today's webinar, titled Rapid Delivery of Agricultural Advisory Services from Data to Farmer Action, features distinguished speakers, including Dr. Hambulo Ngoma from CIMMYT, Dr. Julia Bello Bravo in absentia, Dr. John, Dr. Barry from SOBO. They'll be sharing key accomplishments under the EDI initiative, including the number of people reached and the insights or lessons learned on how SOBO supported and enhanced the agricultural advisories provided through EDI. Just to give a brief on SOBO. SOBO is an acronym which stands for Scientific Animations Without Borders, based at Purdue University, aims to make scientific knowledge easily accessible and understandable by global audiences. It does this by converting extension content on topics like agriculture, health, and women's empowerment into 2D, 2.5D, and 3D animations, which are then dubbed into multiple languages. Essentially, SOBO offers an innovative and inclusive way to share scientific information with people everywhere. And let me make brief introductions on our speakers. On today's webinar, we have Dr. Hambulo speaking to us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Hambulo, a distinguished expert in agriculture economics and the technical lead for the EDI project. There's much that could be said about his contributions, but I'll conclude by highlighting that he's the brain and pioneer behind this webinar series currently led by CIMMYT. Thank you, Hambulo, for the leadership and impact you bring to this work. We are honored to have you share insights and expertise today, and your expertise today. And then secondly, from SOBO, the SOBO team, we have Dr. Julia in absentia. I think yesterday we were told she'll be in transit. Dr. Julia is an assistant professor at Purdue University, focuses on education strategies for food systems and One Health. With over 20 years of work in Global South, she specializes in scaling development innovations across languages and literacy levels. She's the co-founder as well as co-direct SOBO and is known for using animated content for informal education. Thank you, Dr. Julia, for the leadership and impact you bring to this work. And then secondly, I come to Dr. John. Dr. John is a renowned Associate Director of Purdue's University Urban Center in the Department of Entomology, holds a PhD in higher adult and lifelong education with focus on international development. He has led and supported 14 USAID and USDA capacity development projects across 40 plus countries, including all Feed the Future target nations. His past roles include Director of BHERD, Deputy Director for the Feed the Future Legume System Research Innovation Lab, and is the co-PI of the SOBO Rapid Scaling Program. Thank you, Dr. John, for the leadership and impact you bring to this work. And thirdly, come to Dr. Barry. Dr. Barry is a John V. Osman Endowed Chair, Professor of Entomology and Director of the Urban Center at Purdue University. He co-founded and co-directs SOBO and has also served as Director, the Feed the Future Legume System Research Innovations Lab. With a PhD from the University of Wisconsin, he has held key academic positions at MSU, the University of Illinois, and Purdue. For over 25 years, he has focused on the development innovation in Africa, agriculture, and education. Thank you so much, Dr. Barry, for the leadership and impact you bring to this work. Right about now, I'm going to release the stage to our first speaker, our first presenter, Dr. Ambolo. Dr. Ambolo, please, you may take the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Milton. Thanks for the kind introductions. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I think Milton has already welcomed you to the webinar series. Just allow me to share my presentation and we'll get going. So please, can someone confirm you can see my presentation?
Yes,
Perfect. We
Okay.
can see.
Thank you very much. So welcome, everyone. My name is Hambulo, as I have been introduced. I work as an agricultural economist with CIMMYT based in Harare in Zimbabwe. Today, I'll be talking to you about the work we've done under the Accelerated Innovation Delivery Initiative, focused on agricultural advisory services. So just to put things in context, when we are talking about agricultural advisory services, we're basically talking about what is sometimes known as agricultural extension and advisory services, which basically refers to platforms, approaches that are used to get information, innovations, and technologies to farmers for purposes of increasing the agricultural production, productivity, and eventually livelihood. So that's the context. I think Milton talked already about ADI in general, the project that we are talking about, but just to touch on that a little bit before I go into today's talk. So ADI has a goal of ensuring that farmers in the target zones have information and innovations that they need. So there's a big focus on demand-led innovations and using market-based approaches to help farmers cope with different stressors, including climate change, including the rising input costs. And the approach that we use in ADI is basically rapid scaling, rapid and inclusive scaling, I must add, using a network of last mile delivery partners, and we focus on innovations that are ready for scaling. Ultimately, we are hoping to see improved food security, resilient farming systems, and improved livelihoods. And as Milton already mentioned, this is done in the Katanga region of DRC, as you can see on this map, in Malawi, in Tanzania, and in Zambia. The selection at the time was aligned to the Feed the Future zones of influence in these countries, and also the then USAID country development cooperation strategies. But for today, we're looking at advisories. So my outline is, as can be seen, I'll first talk about why advisories, why agricultural advisories. I'll talk a bit about the approach we use in ADI, and most important, talk about the emerging lessons on impact. The so what is the impact of these interventions? And then we're going to hear from our colleagues at SWABO. So let's dive in. So why advisories? I mean, the genesis is that farmers, on one hand, face a lot of challenges. The climate shocks. If you work and live in Southern Africa, like most of us, the El Nino events that characterized the 2013-2024 season are still very fresh on our minds. The rising incidences of pests and diseases, market risks, and many other challenges. But on the other hand, ourselves in research, including our national partners, have developed various technologies and innovations over the years. And these innovations are sitting out there. The big question is, how do you bridge this gap between the challenges farmers are facing on one hand and the available innovations and information on the other hand? And we believe in ADI that that's where advisors come in to serve as a bridge. And they do so by making farmers aware of the existing technologies, innovations, and bringing this information that is required by farmers. But at the same time, advisories should provide a platform for providing feedback from the farmers to research. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. This is some work led by our colleague Monica Fisher in CIMMYT, and Milton talked a little bit about that. In terms of the approach, so our advisory work in CIMMYT is centered around three main components. The first and most important component is to ensure that our advisories are demand-led and nationally relevant. So what does that mean? That means that you provide necessary advisories that are needed by the farmers to address their critical issues, their critical challenges, and nationally relevant in the sense that these advisories complement what national governments are doing. And for us to do this, we held a co-creation workshop where we had key stakeholders from the three countries where ADI was implemented at the time, Tanzania, Malawi, and Zambia. That's where we started off from. The second important pillar is human-centered design. So having the farmers at the center of what we are doing, because ultimately these are the users of our advisory. So we need to ensure that the farmers are at the center to better understand their needs and to be able to co-design solutions to their issues. And the feedback mechanism that I talked about. So in CIMMYT, colleagues have developed a very fantastic feedback system called BackFit that I think has been presented a few times and will be presented in details in the upcoming webinars. As I mentioned, our approach to advisories has been scaling through partnerships. And because farmers are different, we use different approaches. So your farmer field schools, village-based agents, digital platforms as well, digital agricultural advisories where we use television, radio, dashboards, animated videos that we're going to hear about today, even some mobile-based platforms. For example, the interactive voice response platform that we implemented with one of our partners, Viamo, a software enterprise. On the far right here, I sort of like list the different things that we did in terms of the interpersonal kind of advisories using village-based agents, for example, with Agra in Tanzania, agricultural development agents with CRS in Zambia, the agronauts with Meridian Farmer Services Union in Malawi, the hub agro dealers with AFAP in Malawi, lead farmers with Total Land Care Conservation Farming Unit in Malawi and Zambia, and a large network of demonstrations, mega demonstrations, baby and mother demonstrations. I think I talked about, on the digital side of things, I talked about the IVR platforms, and we're going to hear from Swabo about the animated videos and quite a few other things. So I'm going to go a little bit now into the details. So what are we seeing from all these advisories? I mean, this is an example from the IVR platform that I talked about. Our partner Viamo developed a very nice interactive dashboard that would allow us to see how many unique listeners have accessed our messages and what messages in particular are being accessed. So if I take the period between June 1st, 2023 and April 30th, 2025, about 2.3 million unique listeners accessed our advisory platform, just the IVR alone. When we add the other elements, you find that the numbers are much bigger. And about 89% of these were in Malawi, and the remainder in Zambia. In terms of the actual messages themselves, if you look at the top 10, not surprisingly, the El Nino message came out tops because, of course, this period had serious El Nino effects in Southern Africa. Issues of soil fertility, issues of seed selection came out very important. Issues of inoculum in soybean, issues of aflatoxin, and basically disease management, for example, rust and other diseases. Those were featured among the top 10 most listened to. But I mean, the big question is, yeah, you do all these advisories, you get out this information, these innovations, but what does this all mean? You know, this is where I always tell my colleagues that in God we trust and all others bring data. Question really is, what does the data say? So this is where I'm going to spend a bit of my time now. So we do also do some detailed learning activities under ADI. We did one on El Nino in trying to help us design an El Nino advisory response. We did an assessment first to sort of like understand the base. Where are farmers? How prepared are farmers? How aware are they in terms of El Nino? And what can we do to sort of help in response to this El Nino? And when we did this survey in Zambia and Malawi, we found that about 40% in each of the countries were aware that there was an upcoming El Nino, which would probably bring a lot of drought in the region. And when we asked them about the sources of information for these El Nino advisories, a lot of it was from radio, TV, public extension, farmer-to-farmer extension. And this sort of like provided some backup to some of the approaches we are using in our advisory campaigns. In terms of the response that farmers were planning to do, there was a lot of intention to use early maturing and drought-resistant crops alongside the adoption of climate-smart agriculture. So ADI then developed an advisory campaign based off of some of the findings from this intervention. And out of that intervention that we did, and this was based on the IVR platform, the radio activities, we ended up helping build the resilience of approximately 1.2 million farmers in Malawi and Zambia. And you can read more about the details of this particular work on how ADI helped build the resilience of smallholder farmers in Zambia in the face of El Nino by just scanning this QR code. Demonstrations were very key in what we did in ADI, and they are still very key. But the question is often, do these demonstrations actually work? Do they translate into adoption or end lessons, end learning from the farmers? So we did again some assessment that was targeted at about 2,000 of the farmers that had attended these mega demonstrations, and the assessment was done in two parts, or in over two waves. The first wave was just after farmers attend a mega demonstration event. It could be a field day, it could be a roadshow held around the demonstration that is supported by ADI. Then the intention there was to find out if they learned anything new, and if at all they plan to take on any of the things that they've seen in the demonstrations. Then after the planting season, we went back now to actually check from what you saw during the demonstrations, what have you taken on board? And the good news is that about 80% of these demo attendees confirmed having learned something new. About half of them talked about the newer drought-tolerant maize varieties. In terms of the behavioral change that we are hoping to see, we found only a small difference between the intention to adopt and actual adoption, about 1 to 4 percentage points. So basically, we found that 65% of those that intended to adopt drought-tolerant maize varieties, for example, they actually did so post the actual planting season. So in this sense, we found quite some good evidence suggesting that these demonstrations can be effective avenues for introducing and perhaps scaling innovations that actually lead to actual adoption. So among the farmers that also listen to the IVR messages, we found that 50% in Malawi and 74% in Zambia adopted at least one of the innovations they heard about under these digital agricultural extension advisories. And that was, to us, was a plus. Now, we're also doing some very detailed causal impact assessments. So our colleagues, Monica and team, are working on the backfeed. I think at an appropriate time, they'll also be able to present the details and the results of that when they are ready. Here, I'll talk about two interventions. One is a randomized control trial on demo density. We're using demos as an avenue, as a means to introduce and scale these innovations and technologies. There are a lot of questions around how many demos do you need per geographical unit, for example, per village, for you to see this actual adoption and for you to change behavior? And what is the impact of social networks in these particular localities when it comes to demonstrations? And what is the impact of bundling demos with digital agricultural advisory services on knowledge and adoption? And what is the impact of providing information on the seeds that are also in the demos? So this is designed as an RCT, a randomized control trial across 2 districts involving 120 villages. I think we can go into the details, but this is the setup. The second intervention that I want to talk about is specifically targeting on trying to understand the extent to which the recipient of the message, the digital agricultural advisory services in particular, does it matter who receives the message? Do these messages get shared among household members and also for the intended users? So we designed what is known as an A/B testing or split testing, which is a very popular methodology used for testing product preferences, especially in marketing. So we use this specifically for 4 messages. Out of the 30 messages that we had on the IVR platform, we selected 4 on cooperatives, harvesting, marketing, and post-harvest, and sent these to a pre-selected number of households. So these were done in 4 districts, 2 in Zambia, 3 in Zambia, and 3 in Malawi, sorry, 6 districts. And in each of the districts, we had about 200. And this was also segmented by age. So we wanted to look at recipients that are below 25 years of age and those that are above 25 years. And then it was also segmented by gender. That's why you see 600 for males, 600 for females. And then each of those is split by age as well, to see whether there is an influence from the age. So we're also interested in trying to understand whether the message focus itself determined who the message is shared for. For example, if you send out a message on weeding or harvesting or groundnuts versus maize, does that message get its way to the intended users? In terms of the first RCT that I talked about, I think I have about 2 minutes left. Okay. In terms of the RCT I talked about, we did the baseline with 1,300 households. This was completed in August 2023. The midline was completed in August, a year later, in 2024. And we are planning an end line in August this year. We're looking forward to the results to see what learnings are coming out of this. In terms of the A/B testing, that is complete. I wanted to highlight just a few findings. So we found that about 79% of the message recipients shared with at least one adult household member. So meaning, whoever received the message in the household, at least 79% of those recipients actually shared the message, which is a good thing. We also found that gender and age influenced the message sharing. So we found that males, for example, were more likely to share marketing, information around marketing and aflatoxin management. And interestingly, we found that youths were less likely to share across all the message types. And this was quite an interesting findings because our hypothesis probably could have suggested otherwise. But if you look at the context in which we work in Southern Africa, probably that is not so surprising. And also we found that recipients of these messages tended to share the messages with educated and married members, again, highlighting the significance of these social fabrics. And also receiving these messages at home sort of like enhanced sharing among family members. We also found that beliefs tend to enforce sharing, where males are more likely to share and had higher knowledge scores if they believe that the role is for a man. For example, if a message is about weeding maize and they believe that men are responsible for that, then males were more likely to share that particular message to a man. In terms of the impact on knowledge outcomes, because that was one of the key outcomes we're looking at, we found that, again, gender and age had a role. So males tended to share a lot of information on cooperatives, and also this had a significant impact on their test scores, on the knowledge scores, increased the knowledge scores by up to 40%. So what does this all imply for agricultural extension design? One is that targeting specific household members based on traditional roles may actually help information diffusion. And there's need to consider both the gender, age, and message targeting. So in a sense, this sort of like highlights if you think about the whole presentation, this sort of like highlights the complementarity between the digital agricultural advisory services and our traditional extension approaches. That also help to bridge this digital divide. So the entire suite of advisory services and approaches that were used in ADI seems to suggest a very good complementarity between the digital platforms and the in-person platforms that we talked about. I think Milton talked about this already, saying that ADI scaling activities were initially funded through the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and the Department of State. We've continued some of these activities with additional investments through the CGR Science Program, Scaling for Impact, for example, and sustainable farming. I think I will leave it at here, Milton, and pass it over to you. Thank you so much, so that we can listen to Swabo. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very insightful presentation, Dr. Ambulu. I love the fact that you brought out a lot of issues that need attention, but without wasting much time, maybe I'd allow one question before it gets crowded into Dr. Barry's presentation. Is there any question, just one question before we proceed to the next presentation? Please, if you have questions, feel free to push them into the Q&A. We'll attend to them later. Thank you so much. Since I can't see any other questions, I think let me invite Dr. Barry to just come in just about now. Dr. Barry, it's your floor now.
Thank you, Milton. And thank you, Habolo, for that excellent presentation. I really appreciate seeing the great work that you're doing, especially the studies to understand impact. So much appreciated for that presentation. So John Medendort and I will present today. And John, if you don't mind going ahead and sharing your screen. So today we'll talk broadly about SAWBO and a systems approach that we have. We'll also get into some details regarding AIDI projects and some real key lessons learned, broadly speaking. I would like to emphasize that we have done a pre-intervention efforts of survey work earlier on in this program and just completed a post-intervention study several weeks ago in collaboration with the University of Zambia. So hopefully at a later date, we can give you summaries of those results, but at this time, we just have large data sets to go through. So I would like to talk today about SAWBO as an information systems approach for scaling, for research, for development innovations. We'll talk about within the context of this AIDI program, but we'll also talk about it much more broadly. We're hoping to instill on the audience the systems level approach that we have that can be then taken forward, and the contributions that have made into this program will then be available as materials for anybody to use moving forward. Next slide, please.
Hold on just a second. It doesn't seem to be advancing.
No problems.
There we go.
So our ultimate goal is to make extension materials accessible globally to anybody who wants to use it. And I just want to emphasize one thing that we often get questions on. We're not a company, we're not an NGO, we're a program at Purdue University. And our stated goal is to develop systems approaches for scaling e-extension for use by anyone. So since our inception, we've worked extensively with the CGIAR centers, NARS programs, universities, and other experts to take research innovations and make them accessible to everyone. So we work with experts in a particular topic area, and we go back and forth in a peer review manner to make this content scientifically accurate. And we work with experts on those topic areas. And then once it's approved by experts, then it's released, and we work with language experts to place content into numerous languages. So over the last 15 years, we've been able to make through various collaborative funding opportunities well over 200 topic areas in well over 300 languages. And fortunately, under this program, we've been able to work with partners across the 3 countries to make 12 new topic areas that have been and will continue to be placed in more languages for scaling and use. Our approach is research for scaling and scaling for research. So I really appreciate the previous presentation because we're very interested in using research strategies to better understand how impact occurs for the long-term goal of making ultra cost-effective delivery systems. So our goal is to make content that's accurate and then make it as easily available for other groups to uptake and run with it. Our goal is not to deploy specifically ourselves, but make it accessible for others to have the impact in the time, place, and manner that makes most sense to them. So once content is created, all content is freely available for anybody to use for educational purposes, and we make new content with new funding. Next slide, please. Still having trouble with the slide stuff?
Yeah, hold on just a second. I'm not sure what the issue is here.
No problems.
Let me see if I can do it this way.
Technology is wonderful, except when it doesn't work, right? So our broad question is, how do we scale R4D innovations to billions of people in a world with 7,200 languages? So our goal is to take all these great research for development innovations that have been created in CGIAR centers, NARS programs, other scientific laboratories, including universities, and make that easily available to as many people in as many diverse languages as possible. So we take a systems approach to at least understand how we can move towards this goal. Next slide, please. So one of the fundamental things is that any revolution that we've seen in terms of making things accessible have been about increased accessibility and reducing costs by taking information or taking systems approaches. So originally cars were very expensive, they were very hard to access. And hard to use. Obviously, prices have dropped. They've become much more accessible and much more easily accessible and cost effectively accessible for people. Phones went from that first phone call by Alexander Graham Bell with 2 people, probably the most expensive phone call ever, to everybody or many people globally having access to phones in their pockets that we can do many things with. Again, reduction of costs, increased accessibility, and that's the only way we can move towards a scale of many things. Genetics and molecular biology are the same. I'm a molecular biologist by training, and I remember the early days of taking a year of sequencing a gene. Now you can take devices slightly larger than a cell phone and sequence a whole genome in it. Again, reduced costs, increased accessibility. We feel the same thing has to be done with extension materials so that we can make it much more effective in terms of scaling. Next slide, please. So essentially, we work with global experts and global expert communities to take content, research, development, innovations that are scientifically backed, make sure that it's readily available, and make it very easily accessible to end users. So that essentially, we're looking at research and development around the bridge to get things out of the great innovations that scientists have and put it into the hands of end users and get it into as many languages as possible, and then study impact. Next slide, please. This is the end goal. And the end goal here is somebody who has watched one of the videos, and this video was made in collaboration with a CGIAR scientist, and these 2 people never met. The scientist who helped make us the video, helped work with us to make the video, and the end user who downloaded the video and was employing the technique. So we do studies around that move towards, do people learn and then do they adopt and then do they innovate? And we look at pathways of how to most easily make it accessible to people and drop costs and make it most accessible. Next slide, please. So as a systems approach, we produce content given to the left here. We work with global experts where we have funding. We put it into numerous languages. It goes into a database. It becomes accessible to anybody. And we continue to grow this library. So this is a growing database library. And we work with groups to disseminate, and then we evaluate and understand what happened in that dissemination strategies in order to make them more effective moving forward. And we look at multiple dissemination strategies and then ask questions of what type of impact would occur. So under COVID, we had a SAWBO Rapid program where we scaled to over 12 million people and then did country level assessments to look at adoption of those given technologies. And we have multiple publications where we work around this approach. Next slide, please. So all of our materials become available in a very flexible database. And so this is our library, and to the left, you can just thumb through the library of all the materials. You can click on whichever one you video person wants, click on that video, and then the drop-down list of selected languages. One can go to the languages, click to that page of the language one wants, and then download whatever video file format one wants. So it becomes completely and easily accessible to anybody who wants to download and use this content. And this large database now feeds into other systems that we have. Next slide, please. It also feeds into an app that we have that we released this past year. And over the last 6 months, we've gone from very few users to about 67,000 globally. This app allows anyone to access the videos that we have in a time and place that makes sense for them when they're online. They can then download it and they can share it through everything from WhatsApp to any other platform that they want that is on their cell phone, or they can save it and take it out with them into a remote area where there's no internet access and then use a cell phone as a video player or a tablet as a video player. We also can draw upon this library and create unique libraries of USB cards that could be handed out in volume to large amounts of collaborators that can then use it on everything from Pico projectors to TV sets to computers, etc. So it's a completely flexible library, and once we create that content, it becomes readily available for anybody to use anytime, place, where they want. And this library just continues to grow in terms of topic areas and languages. Next slide, please. So what we do also, and I'm just going to give you an example here because we're doing this very similar thing in our work in Zambia, where we've scaled with several collaborative groups there. And John will talk about this a little bit more. But we've done a pre-intervention and then we've done a post-intervention to see what people have learned. Have they enacted the techniques, and what are pathways that are logical that where people are able to grab this material and run with it? So we use both RCT strategy approaches, but we also use machine learning approaches. So I'm trained as an RCT scientist, so I really appreciate the previous talk. But we engage in RCT types of approaches, which are the absolute gold standard. But we also use machine learning tools to take unstructured data sets to then understand parameters that are important in terms of scaling. So there's two very distinct strategies, and we use both, and we appreciate both strategies. This is just an example of where some of these very similar studies we've previously done with CIMMYT been able to understand gender balance issues associated with scaling. Next slide, please. So we've been in existence for about 14 years, numerous countries we've worked in. Content's been used in a lot of different areas. We have numerous different languages, and we're again continuing to drive down costs per use. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through multiple examples of experiences we've had in multiple projects over the last several years. So we've also been involved with the Great Lakes AIDI program as well. And one of the things that we found in terms of working in these different countries was very different strategies. And we've been exploring sustainability models as well as the same with working in the Southern African AIDI program, where we've been working with local extension partners in Zambia and then in In other partner countries such as Malawi, we've been working extensively with the government on getting things into local languages, and then also working with partners with AIDI program. Next slide, please. So in many countries, we will work with state agencies to get state level approval of all content, and then we can co-brand with those entities as well. So if you think of this giant database of materials we have, we can then set up specific portals where specific programs and projects have that accessible, and it becomes indefinitely accessible to any other group that wants to use it. Next slide, please. So we also deliver through mass scaling with USB cards to TV stations. So in Zambia, we provided TV stations across the country in over 8 different languages, USB cards for them to display and run these on their TV stations across the country. As an example, provided USB cards to local partners and Pico projector systems that they could then use to scale. And then we've done post-intervention studies that just been completed. Again, also with the Sabo app, we can do countrywide AI pushes and then look towards use of that app in a given country. And it can also be used offline as another system of a library where local NGOs can deliver the app with content of the full set of videos in a given language to a given village. Next slide, please. So with CIMMYT, we have created a co-branded website, and we appreciate all the time and effort and resources and collaborations with all the AIDA partners in the creation of this content. Content is placed in multiple languages, is available for use. Some of the more recent content that's been created, we're dealing with rebranding, as I think everybody realizes the changes that occur has been required rebranding. Next slide, please. So I'll turn it over to John to just talk a little bit about the work we've been doing with AIDI strategy, but go ahead, John.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. So just to give you an idea of how we have approached this in the AIDI Southern Africa region, we did, first of all, content contextualization. This was 11 existing videos that Sabo already had that were applicable to the countries where we were working. So we translated those 11 videos into 10 different languages, 8 languages in Zambia, 2 languages in Malawi, and then Swahili in Tanzania. In addition, we have created an additional 8 videos, which are already posted to the project website. And there are another 4 still coming. And as Barry mentioned, those are being rebranded currently, but they'll be up on the page soon. So there will be a total of 23 videos available for the Southern Africa partners. We've done national YouTube pushes. This is a strategy whereby you purchase from YouTube the ability to place these videos into YouTube feeds. So this brings us in contact with a lot of people. As you can see here, we surpassed 7 million views, which was our target for this project in February already, and it's well above that 7 million now, although we're not currently doing any pushes. But this is a way to reach large numbers of people very quickly. We did a project called Sabo Rapid that Barry mentioned before. And in Sabo Rapid, we were able to push this out to 12 million people. And of those 12 million people, we found in an on-the-ground ground truthing survey that about a quarter of them actually implemented the techniques that were explained in the videos. So we haven't done a large follow-up study on these YouTube pushes, but we suspect that the numbers would be similar for this group, that about 25% of those who have encountered the videos would use the techniques. We also did partner distribution. We were able to hold partner training sessions in both Zambia and Malawi. Unfortunately, we did not get to Tanzania for the partner meetings. It was just logistically too difficult. And so we worked with Tadi in Tanzania, but we don't have numbers on what they've done. And then for more in-depth understanding of what's happening, we targeted 4 districts in Zambia for an in-depth survey to try to understand exactly how extensively the videos had been shared and also whether or not the videos were shared with others. And we did this by training the government extension personnel in 4 districts in Zambia. And then they in turn trained approximately 10,000 farmers, well over 10,000 farmers at this point, because the training is ongoing. But they trained more than 10,000 farmers, and we're in those districts right now acquiring the statistics on how many of those farmers actually receive the training, as Barry mentioned. Let's see here. There we go. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to grab the QR code of the project website. This is where all the videos are. So I'll give you just a second to grab that. And if you don't have a device with which to grab the QR code, then you can use the web address that you see at the bottom of this page. But this has all of the videos. I especially encourage you to look at the new videos that have come out. We have several on water conservation, which are very, very important for Zambia and Malawi, at least. Tanzania, perhaps less so. But nevertheless, those are very timely videos. Every time the El Nino expresses, we know that there's going to be issues with drought. So having those videos in your back pocket to train farmers on how to conserve water during times of drought would be an essential piece of information for them. And then, as Barry mentioned, we use local innovators. We are not ourselves distributors, but we try to make the videos available to anyone who wants them. That includes all the partners here for the AIDI project. You can take the videos, use them as you will, share them as you will, make them part of your own training. We don't put any restrictions on the use of the videos. The only thing we ask is that you not edit them. If you need edits, you can approach us and we'll be happy to work with you to do edits where necessary. However, we ask that you not do the edits yourself, that you work with us on them, simply because we want to guard the integrity, the scientific integrity of the videos. And so this was the result of the distribution in Zambia. As you can see, over 10,000 farmers have been trained. And then also in Rwanda, we worked with someone from CIMMYT, who was doing trainings in schools. And this turned out to be an amazing project. As you can see, there were over 370 participants. But the most important thing is that each one of the schools now has a school garden where they not only train the students, but they also train the local farmers who are interested in seeing how the cultivation is done using scientific principles. And this has attracted a lot of attention because the school gardens are outperforming the farmers. And so the farmers, of course, under those circumstances, have become very curious about what methods are being used. And they are taking it upon themselves to learn techniques that are being shared through the Sabo videos.
I'd just like to interject on this last slide, is just leave it here, is that we're involved with other AIDI programs. We have lessons learned from numerous different interventions where groups have taken very, very different strategies. And again, our approach is we create the content, make sure it's scientifically accurate. As others deploy, we learn from that to share with others. And this was an excellent example of where one group took it and then trained educators who can then use these materials year after year after year beyond the scope of this project. So our goal is to enable, to make sure others have access to the materials that they can use beyond the scope of the project. Next slide, please. Thank you, John. So one of the other things too is that we've learned from multiple interventions across both of these AIDA programs, and we have significant amount of use of the app as well in our 3 target countries. But I do want to emphasize and give this as an example. So people can download the video or download the app when and where they want. It contains our videos from the AIDI program, and they can use this content when and where they want. And it costs us literally pennies to get this into people's hands. So then they have a device in their hands that they can access materials. This is just one day in a remote town in Burundi where an individual has downloaded the app and used it with over 50 events in a 48-hour period with the various videos. So what we want to instill on this is the potential for any group to now take these materials and run with them at scale. So this particular example, like many of the examples of people using the app in Zambia, Malawi, and actually in Tanzania as well, is we actually don't know who those groups are, but they are now accessing the materials and downloading them and using them. And we can keep track of when and where events are occurring. We don't keep track of personal data because we don't want, there's a lot of ethical reasons for that, but we do know when and where this content is being used. So again, we've been able to scale also a platform that can be used moving forward. And what we want to instill on the audience today is that this platform is now readily and completely available for anybody to use to anywhere they want to use it. And with the app itself, next slide, please. We have content that stands behind this app that it exists in about 300 languages right now, and numerous content, including the AIDI content from both programs. And that content is readily available for anybody to download the app, then download the videos they want and use them when and where they want. So what we've also observed is use of the app in conflict zones where organizations cannot go into it. So a significant amount of use, for example, in DRC as well. I'm just giving this as an example. And one of the experiences we've had is external groups taking the app, putting it on a tablet, um, downloading whatever we have in that given local language, putting it on the tablet, and then taking it out into a village with a small portable charger. And then that village will now have the full diversity of the videos that can be used as essentially encyclopedia in that particular video village, and it can be left as long as is necessary for people to watch and use the materials. So anyone can download this content, anyone can use this content, and anyone can scale this content moving forward. Next slide, please. So our goal again is to make this content readily available so local actors and country-specific actors can use the content in the way it makes sense to them. So in Zambia, it's ranged from, as a good example, providing Pico projectors plus USB cards for scaling, where extension agents now are using those materials in order to scale content. Groups can now, and anybody can download and have access to the app. So we have plenty of uses in Zambia, Malawi, and Tanzania as well of the app and downloading of content. So those are now any partner and any organization can use them. And we've also had experiences with groups taking the content and just downloading the app onto tablets to use that in a educational context as well. So, and additionally, use on television stations, etc. So our approach is very much taking this multi-pronged strategy and being very agnostic about how people use the content, but being supportive of all different strategies. One of the things I'd like to mention is leadership. The lead economist at FAO led a study to look at what would happen if you deployed the videos in school systems, and the use and deployment of materials back into homes from the students. So we know from that studies, coupled with the work that we've been doing with local partners, that school systems are a very logical strategy for a long-term sustained approach for deploying content, as one of many strategies. AI pushes of a app allow us to make very specific country-directed availability of the app. So we can literally make to advertise to large numbers of people in a given country the app, and they can begin using it and downloading and using that materials. It's a very cost-effective strategy to get large numbers of people to use that platform. So again, local partners can use a tablet encyclopedia models to take that content out to places where there is no necessary, where there's maybe not be internet, cell phones, or power use. So we'd like to just instill in the audience today that there's this model and this tool is available. All AIDI content is available on that for easy download and use. And as John had mentioned, we've done these deployment strategies where we've done pre-intervention, an intervention, and now a post-intervention study. And we look forward to reporting out on the details of the analysis of that in the coming months. So thank you very much. John, if you have anything else to say, let me know and just go from there.
Nope, I'm good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful and very deep. I would want to first consult with Tehil. How much time does this allow us? Does it drop us out as soon as the time is up? Because it's already, I think we've exhausted our time. Do we have an allowance? Madam Taylor, because I have some questions in the.
So
Milton, please just repeat that.
I was wondering how much time it allows us to go over, if we.
We can do a good 7 minutes because I've seen quite a number of questions. So I think it's
Yeah,
very important for us to also be able to engage with the audience. So you
great,
can take it away.
great. Thank you so much. I think the first feedback I would get came from Dr. Peter. Is actually asking. I think this goes to Dr. Barry and Dr. John. How do you decide content to produce or the video to produce?
so a lot of it has to do with funding mechanisms. So what is the focus of the funder? And that absolutely is a driving mechanism. But then the next level is we have to have scientifically validated information. So we have to have access to scientists who have published on a topic area where they have a considerable level of expertise on that topic area. And then we essentially assemble a mini team that will help us go back and forth that are experts on that topic area to create that content. So it's done very much in a peer review process. One of the fundamental things is it has to be scientifically valid information. I mean, that's just a critical component with backing of evidence that those given techniques will work. And then there's actually a sets of decision trees that we will use to determine what is the most logical content. So often we'll ask that question of if somebody learns about this technique, are they going to have easy access to the necessary sets of resources to embrace that and run with it? So it's one of these things where if I have access to the knowledge, but I need physical materials, a tangible widget or products, do I have easy access to those in order to enact what I'm going to do? So oftentimes those will become a priority area. So for example, our jerry can animation has been very extensively used in a lot of countries because a high percentage of people have access to jerry cans and the other materials that are associated with it. So again, it begins with, is it scientifically valid? The second thing is there a team of people that we can work with in order to create that content? And this is one of the reasons I would argue we've been very, very biased with working with the CGIAR Center is because there's all these great innovations that have been created and there's an expert pool that we can work with. And for transparency's sake, our first videos all started with CGIAR scientists, and much of what we've done has been done with CGIAR and NARS partners. And we try to make sure we get localized context associated with as well to the best of our ability. I hope that helps.
And then also,
Great.
in the case of the Southern Africa region, we reached out to all of the partners and asked them if they had video content that they would like us to produce. And then together with them, we created the new content that was available. So what you see on the website is what we did together with the partners, using them as the technical experts in order to create the content.
And one of the things that we do very much realize is the best thing to do in any sort of program is at the very beginning, determine what other partners are going to be deploying, make that content with them so that they have it as materials that they need moving forward. So that's a critical component. But having partners that can uptake those materials is absolutely critical, as John had mentioned.
Great, that's also some great feedback. I hope that answers Dr. Peter's question. Dr. Hambulo, there's something that needs your attention inside. I saw you typing. I think that's great. I hope that answers the question that the person posed. But there's another one again directed to you, Dr. Hambulo, where Brian is actually saying, I like the point you made to the effect that in-person and digital extension services used together can help bridge the digital divide. What would you recommend as the best way to help government take up digital advisory approaches, such as those being promoted on ADI? Would you speak to that in a minute, Doc? Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you, Milton, and thank you for the question, Brian. I think governments, like, for example, the Zambian government is also already moving in that direction to embrace e-extension. So the lessons that are coming out of activities like the ones under ADI could actually help them in thinking through in terms of what digital platforms could actually serve the purpose. So for example, the IVR platform that we are using on ADI could be one of those very cost-effective approaches. And the combination of digital agricultural advisories and in-person, I think this is something that you guys under the backfeed are actually implementing. So the TV shows, by the way, which also could actually build on the content from Swabo, for example, was also another platform that has gained quite some good traction in Zambia. And beyond these activities, we are also in touch as CIMMYT with the Zambian government in trying to help them think through how to actualize some of these digital agricultural advisory platforms. Over. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope, Brian, you've actually taken note of that. And I've seen feedback from Mr. Jonathan. Nice to see good data being collected by the SOBO team under ADI. Advisories like yours are also essentially e-extension methods. Please, could you share any insights or data you may have highlighting the ROI, return on investment, for the SOBO videos, animes, compared to other extension methodologies? I'll send out in a minute to Dr. Barry or John. Anyone can pick it up. Thanks.
Great,
I
thank
see
you.
Dr. John is actually writing.
Yeah. So I'd just like to speak to that. We've actually done a study on ROI and actually have developed an ROI tool. And this has been done in collaboration with the chief economist at FAO and then a leading economist based in Rwanda as well. When we're using it's called machine learning. It's a machine learning or control theory approach that uses math that comes from these other discipline areas. So we can actually determine what is the cost, what is the return on investment in terms of the videos and new language variants. So in terms of a break-even point on the videos themselves, if you're looking at a long-term period of like a 30-year, it's only in the couple hundred people that you need to impact in order to make these things cost effective. If you're looking at a 3-year timeline, you need about 7,500 people to be impacted in order to have an effective return on investment. However, when you place it in a new language, you only need about 200 people for a break-even point. So we've also looked at what are returns on investment depending on how much does that cost for a person to implement, and then how much will they make out of that investment as well. So that model system, we actually have that in review in a journal right now. So hopefully that'll come out soon. But we do have a whole strategy that we've taken in collaboration with multiple other groups to come to grips with what does it cost to make a content, and how many people do you have to impact in order to have a return on investment for it. So the take home is actually really not that much. You don't have to have that many people. Where the real issue comes at hand in terms of this is broadly applicable for all extension systems. You want to drop the costs as much as possible for getting knowledge into people's hands. That is actually a really critical component of the model. So if you can drop that down to pennies or fractions of pennies, your return on investment can be very, very, very good. And this is one of the reasons we've been very much exploring the space of getting platforms into people's hands. So for small amounts of resources, because yes, we can deliver pennies per person for video through some of these other strategies. But when you get a platform onto people's cell phone and they can use it again and again and again, and it's a couple pennies per getting it onto their cell phone, then you're driving the cost down dramatically of the actual video use itself. So this is a place we're very actively involved in as the return on investment. And what are those key points in extension systems that you need to have as a to drive down costs? So it's an excellent question and something we're very interested in. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for that feedback, Dr. Barry. I think that goes for the attention of Dr. Abdul and willingness to pay concepts now into that field. Let me get the last one, the quick one. I think that goes back to you, Dr. John and Dr. Barry. In what ways are scientific animations without borders enhanced research outreach and engagement in ADI-SAR projects?
John, do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I can take that. So we've done a couple of things. Number one, we created the content in conjunction with the partners so that they had the videos that they needed in order to do their outreach work. But the second thing that we did was we trained the partners on how to use the videos out in the field. So this was a training on how to download, how to store, how to share, how to create networks for sharing. And in that way, we enhanced their ability to deliver digital content because we found that a lot of our partners did not have that capability. They've been using traditional outreach methods, and as a result, they were limited in how far they could reach. But with this enhanced delivery approach, which we do through the trainings, we help our partners understand how they can use digital resources, not just SAWBO, but digital resources generally, in order to reach larger groups of people. And as I've mentioned before, and as Barry mentioned, we do rely heavily on social networks for delivery of content. We have a lot of WhatsApp groups in Africa, and I think over 18 African countries now that work together to discuss ways in which to deliver the videos through their particular networks. And so those WhatsApp groups become communities of practice where people share ideas on how best to use the content in order to reach farmers. So I think that's probably our biggest contribution to the AIDI projects. It's in that ability to use digital resources in order to reach farmers. And just as an aside, as a result of the post-intervention study that we did in Patauke district, we found that over 95% of smallholder farmers in Patauke had access to a video capable device. We honestly were astonished by that number, but farmers have more access to digital resources than we assume. And so the old model of sending someone out to the field with a sheet of paper that describes a technique or doing a demonstration plot, we don't have to rely on those very expensive methods in order to get the word out. We can use digital resources, and we can use social networks. We can use television. We can use the internet. There are a lot of ways to deliver content now that were not available to us even 10 years ago. So there's lots of advances here, and that's what the trainings do. They help people understand how they can take the content and make it available to smallholder farmers without having to go out to the field, using the digital resources and networks that are available to us.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Barrett. Thank you so much, Dr. John. That was awesome. And we are part of the beneficiaries under ADI, actually. We're teaching people the post-harvest technologies and everything. We had to use the videos to teach on the PICS bugs.
Thank you. Thank you for using.
Thank you so much. I'd love to, it's been very exciting. Thank you, Dr. Hambulo and the SAWBO team for having availed yourselves to give us these awesome presentations. I just want to come to close this session. I think we can go on and on because it's actually very exciting and interesting. And everyone that tuned in to participate in this important conversation, please, thank you so much. On behalf of ADI and our partners, we hope today's discussion inspires you to do more and be more. Stay tuned for our next ADI webinar. Details will be sent out soon. Until then, take care and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Rob.
everyone.
All right, bye.
And thank you, everyone. Take care. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks, bye.